This man was a Navy pilot in the United States military. During a covert bombing raid over Laos, his plane was shot down deep in enemy territory, where he was captured and thrown into a brutal prison camp. But this man decided he wasn't going to die in captivity. What followed was a daring escape through treacherous jungles, a relentless battle against nature, and an unyielding will to survive that defied all odds. This is the story of Dieter Dengler, the pilot who turned imprisonment into one of the most extraordinary tales of freedom ever told. It was 1938, and the world was on the brink of war. Explosions lit up the night sky, casting eerie shadows over the rubble-strewn streets of a small German village. In the middle of it all, 6-year-old Dieter Dengler crouched under a makeshift shelter, his heart pounding in his chest. For most, the droning engines above signified terror, but for young Dengler, they sparked something extraordinary, a fascination. In the face of destruction, he saw inspiration. He didn't just want to survive, he wanted to fly. Dengler's early life was a study in resilience. His family, like many in post-World War I Germany, struggled to get by. His father, a lumberjack by trade, worked tirelessly to provide for his wife and children. But tragedy struck when Dengler was just a young boy. His father fell ill and passed away, leaving the family to fend for themselves. The loss was devastating, but it planted the first seeds of toughness in Dieter, who quickly learned that survival often meant forging your own path. As the war intensified, Allied bombers became a regular sight over the village. While other children screamed and scattered during air raids, Dieter would run outside to watch the planes carve paths through the sky. Their precision, power, and freedom mesmerized him. When the dust settled and silence returned to the forest, Dieter would wander among the wreckage of downed aircraft, marveling at the machines and dreaming of the day he could pilot one. But life in war-torn Germany was unforgiving. Food was scarce, and the family often went hungry. The economic despair of post-war Germany only deepened the struggles of the Dengler household. Yet even as he scavenged for scraps or helped his mother in their modest home, Dieter never let go of the dream those Allied planes had inspired. "I want to fly," he would say, staring at the horizon. To his family and neighbors, it seemed like a childish fantasy. For Dieter, it was a promise to himself and his future. By the time Dieter turned 18, Germany had begun to rebuild, but opportunities were still limited. He realized that if he wanted to make his dream a reality, he would have to leave the only home he had ever known. In 1956, armed with little more than hope, Dengler set off for the United States. The journey was not easy. He worked odd jobs to afford his passage, often going without meals to save money. But Dieter's unyielding determination drove him forward. When he finally arrived in America, everything felt foreign. The language, the culture, even the way people walked. But instead of feeling intimidated, Dieter felt invigorated. This was the land of opportunity, a place where dreams could take flight, literally. He wasted no time, and soon enlisted in the U.S. Navy, where his mechanical aptitude and relentless work ethic quickly set him apart. Training as a pilot, Dengler was finally in his element. For the first time, he wasn't just dreaming about soaring through the skies. He was doing it. His instructors recognized something special in him, an ability to remain calm under pressure, a sharp instinct for navigation, and an unshakable resolve. Dengler excelled, earning his wings and becoming a naval aviator. To many, he had already achieved the impossible. From the rubble of Germany to the cockpits of the U.S. Navy, Dengler had turned a childhood dream into reality. But dreams can quickly turn into nightmares. In 1966, just a few years into his career, Dengler volunteered for a covert mission in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War. It was a decision that would test every ounce of his resilience. On the morning of February 1, 1966, Lieutenant Dieter Dengler's fighter plane roared off the deck of the U.S. Ranger, cutting through the humid air over the South China Sea. His mission, a classified bombing run over Laos, targeting key supply lines supporting the North Vietnamese army. These covert operations were critical and dangerous. Dengler approached the mission with focus and precision, traits that had earned him his wings. But the skies over Laos hid a deadly secret. Enemy anti-aircraft artillery, concealed in the dense jungle below, waited for their prey. As Dengler descended toward his target, a thunderous crack split the air. His cockpit filled with alarms, the acrid scent of smoke, and searing heat as flames ignited. His aircraft had been hit. Years of training kicked in. Fighting to regain control of the spiraling plane, Dengler ejected just moments before impact. The dense jungle broke his fall, but not without cost. Branches cut into his skin as he tumbled into the undergrowth. Disoriented but alive, he scrambled to free himself from the parachute and assess his surroundings. The jungle was oppressive, its silence broken only by the distant hum of insects. Survival instincts took over. Retrieving his survival kit, Dengler began planning his next move. Yet the jungle wasn't his only enemy. Within hours, the guttural shouts of soldiers echoed through the trees. Armed with a pistol and sheer determination, Dengler tried to evade capture, but the odds were overwhelming. His pursuers closed in, and he was overpowered. Dragged through the jungle, Dengler was taken to a makeshift prison camp. There, he joined 6 other prisoners, 2 Americans, 3 Thai nationals, and a Chinese fighter pilot. The sight of his fellow captives was grim. Emaciated bodies, sunken eyes, and spirits worn thin by relentless brutality. The guards, unflinching in their cruelty, wielded beatings and starvation as weapons. Meals consisted of little more than a handful of rice. The water, teeming with parasites, offered no respite. Despite these conditions, Dengler's mind remained sharp. As he adjusted to life in the camp, he began to study his surroundings. The guards' routines, the camp's weak points, and the direction of a nearby river became critical pieces of a puzzle he intended to solve. Escape was not just a hope, it was a necessity. But escape was fraught with peril. The jungle surrounding the camp was as hostile as the guards. Venomous creatures, disease, and the dense, uncharted terrain threatened anyone who dared to venture into it. Yet Dengler's resolve only deepened. Observing the jungle with the precision of a pilot charting the skies, he began to map out a path to freedom. As weeks turned to months, Dengler's optimism became infectious. He encouraged the other prisoners, reminding them of their humanity and the possibility of life beyond the camp. His unwavering determination wasn't just for himself, it was for all of them. Late at night, escape plans began to take shape. Every detail was scrutinized, every risk calculated. The prisoners sharpened scraps of metal into crude tools, loosening wooden planks to create potential escape routes. Their resolve hardened as Dengler's leadership brought a flicker of hope into the suffocating darkness of captivity. Survival alone was not enough for Dieter Dengler. Action was the only path forward. Through relentless observation, he identified the guards' vulnerabilities, moments of distraction, predictable patrol patterns, and gaps in their resources. These weaknesses became the foundation for a daring escape plan. Dengler's unwavering determination reignited a spark in the other prisoners. Together, they pooled their limited resources and began preparing. Rusted scraps of metal were fashioned into makeshift tools. Wooden beams were weakened to create hidden exit points. Every action had to be calculated and discreet. The guards' suspicion was a constant threat. Timing was everything. Dengler proposed waiting for the rainy season. The torrential downpours would mask their movements and make tracking nearly impossible. The group agreed, despite the additional risks: flooded paths, treacherous terrain, and the increased likelihood of disease. It was a gamble, but one worth taking. To ensure the plan's success, each prisoner was assigned a specific role. Some would create distractions, while others focused on securing supplies and tools. Dengler worked tirelessly to refine every aspect of the escape, turning their meager resources into assets. Tools were concealed in plain sight, disguised among everyday items to avoid detection. As the rainy season approached, the prisoners intensified their preparations. They rehearsed their actions, whispering commands and refining their timing. Every step of the escape was practiced in their minds, each gesture deliberate and precise. The camp became a battlefield of wits, with Dengler and his comrades determined to outsmart their captors. The night before the planned escape, the air in the bamboo hut was thick with tension. Dengler addressed the group, his voice steady but firm. "This is our only chance," he reminded them. "We don't know what lies ahead, but we can't afford to stay here any longer." The guards remained oblivious to the storm brewing within their own camp. As rain battered the roof of the hut, the prisoners lay awake, silently rehearsing their roles and bracing for the uncertainty of what was to come. The day finally arrived, June 29,